Brilliant. Now, I think it is time. We've spoken a lot about the games, a lot about the series.
Yeah,
So I think I'm ready to talk about our top fives. If
top five. Yeah.
and get ready for this, people. I spared no expense. I I absolutely did it for free because I made it myself. But
Nice,
I have a top five graphic for this.
nice.
There we go. Look at that. Ignore the fact that I put the wrong duck on there. I figured that out after the fact, but you know what? It's about games, so I'm letting it slide.
Yeah, no, it works. It works.
So my top. What we'll do is I'll give you my top five. Then
Yep,
you tell me yours, and we'll go down
yep,
like that.
yep,
Only because that's how I've layered it in the scene. So we can't do
yep.
it another way anyway.
That's all right. That's fine. Yeah,
So for my top five, I'm getting this out of the way. My number five is Assassin's Creed 1.
yep,
It started the whole thing off. It took. It introduced us to a new style of blended stealth and action adventure gameplay. It brought, I think, for the first time in my knowledge, it brought parkour and free running into video gaming,
yep.
which got adopted by so many other games. Like even
Oh yeah,
GTA 4 was the weirdest one for that to go
yeah.
into, but
That had a bit of parkour in. Yeah.
had a little bit of parkour. You cannot say that it wasn't an influence to video games as
Oh
a
yeah.
whole.
I
And
mean, I think
considering,
if it wasn't for Assassin's Creed, you wouldn't have had Dead by Daylight. You wouldn't have had
yeah,
Mirror's Edge. There's so many games that you wouldn't have had because of the whole parkour thing. The whole parkour dynamic was a good feature to introduce. I think.
it absolutely was. And
Mm,
all this just from basically a spiritual successor to Prince of Persia.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, the title itself was originally going to be Prince of Persia game, Prince of Persia Assassins, um,
mm,
and I think midway through development they realised they didn't want to do that with Prince of Persia and just
yeah,
brought in the branching future narrative, and yeah, so it became its own thing, and thank God it did. So
yeah.
that is my number five. Would you care to tell
hmm
me what your number five is there, Glitch?
Yeah. So my number five is actually Odyssey, the game we were just talking about just now. You know, as we were just saying about it, you know, there's a lot of content to it, which is both a blessing and a drawback. But for me personally, Odyssey sort of covered pretty much a lot of story. There was a lot of dynamics to it. There was the map as itself, as I said earlier. It's just a huge map that you're never really going to be able to complete, even if you dump 100 hours into it. The map is never going to be fully explored. And the sort of characters as well. Cassandra is one of the best antagonists in the series. I think she's one of the best sort of characters to play.
Hmm.
Alexos, as we said, is a bit of a letdown, I will admit, but you know, Cassandra works and she's a good sort of character to experience. And the whole sort of Mystios thing as well, the whole sort of mercenary dynamic, I think was a really good, enjoyable experience. The ships in Odyssey as well were really good. The sort of
Yeah,
battles you have out at sea, it was sort of the same dynamic everyone was used to, yes, but again, it made it in, you know, the fact that you could board the ship and take out the whole crew,
which was
loot the stuff, and then jump
beautiful.
off and watch the ship sink. It was just, yeah, it was brilliant. And you know, who didn't have fun with the Spartan kick? You know what I mean? Who didn't get their enemy to the side of a cliff and just kick him in the chest and watch him fall off the cliff?
I had a
You know what I mean?
lot of fun booting people off the side of ships.
That's it. It's just, yeah, that is one of the most fun aspects of the game, and for that reason, yeah, I think for those reasons and a whole lot more, that's going to be my number five.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I completely agree with everything you've said.
yeah,
But we will come back to this a little bit later. So we'll go to for my number 4.
Yeah.
My number 4. There we go. Check that out. Is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now,
Okay.
we don't talk about Unity, but I do have to talk about Unity in order to get my point across about Syndicate. Now, while Unity was a big letdown because it was buggy, it was glitchy, it was... I mean, the story was pretty much just Assassin's Creed 2, but in France. It did introduce some of the better elements for the series going forward. It started off the RPG stuff. Started off the different weapons and combat styles, which I absolutely adore, and has been adopted by every future game since. And of course, you get your... I mean, cosmetics aren't... I'm not bothered about cosmetics, but the idea of character customization came from Unity as well. But Syndicate took that stuff and ran with it. Made it far better. You ended up with your hook shot, which just made traversing London absolutely amazing. Because it wasn't always going to be... you weren't always going to be able to jump from roof to roof because the streets were too wide. So to give us that hook shot to keep us up high was a masterstroke. And of course, I also really enjoyed the combat itself. I don't know why, but I always like to play without weapons. I like to do like fist run throughs, and you can do it on that game if you are good enough. For me, and of course, Jacob and Evie Fry being able to switch between the two characters at will was pretty cool as well. So that's why it's my number 4.
Yep.
So what is your number 4, Mr. Carl?
So my number 4 is actually Origins, and the reason why it's my number 4 is because really, who doesn't like a good origin story? And I think with Origins, the story kind of filled in a lot of questions that a lot of people had about how the Creed got started, how it all began. It sort of went back further than Altair and just sort of said, look, this is how the Creed got established. This is why the assassins do this and do that, do this and do that. I mean, Bayek as a character was a relatively good character. I mean, I preferred his wife over him. I'm not going to lie. I think his wife was more badass than he was.
Yes.
But as a character himself, he was a good character. He was a well-rounded character. He had a reason as to why he was doing what he was doing. And you know, the whole thing as well behind Hidden Blade, why the assassins cut their finger off. It's actually to honour him and to honour the sacrifice that he made, because obviously there's a bit in Origins where you're sort of in this bathhouse, you go and kill someone, but that someone cuts your finger off, and you're basically left bleeding out, and you have to try and escape, and that's how the whole Hidden Blade cut off the finger thing came about. It was to honour that sacrifice. You know, Cleopatra and Antony as well, the sort of main enemies in it. You know, I think they did really well with Cleopatra, sort of portraying her and everything. And the sort of dynamics in the game, like the camel, I always found the sort of camel a little bit funny. You know, the fact that you could just sort of call the camel and the camel be right there, sort of thing. And it was brilliant. And who didn't enjoy sliding down the pyramid? Come on.
Oh, that was fun.
The fact that you can climb up to the top of the pyramid and then just slide all the way down it like a surfboard. It was just brilliant. You know, and the amount of times I stood on the Sphinx and just looked out over the horizon, over to the sand dunes and everything. It was just a brilliant experience. There's a few things with it, I will admit, there's a few little sort of niggly bits with it that weren't exactly polished, but I still think overall Origins was a good sort of way to explain how the party got started. And for that reason, it's my number 4. It's a good experience.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I cannot disagree with a single thing you just said there. It kind of makes me question my number 3 a little bit.
All right.
Because you've raised some points that actually make me question my own thought process.
Okay.
Because my number 3 is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Right.
Now, Assassin's Creed Odyssey for me took everything that Origins did
Mm-hmm.
and ran with it. Again, it expanded on certain elements. Others it kind of just coasted with.
Yeah.
But it did bring back ship battles with a reason.
Yeah.
Ship traversal made sense in this game. The map was absolutely gorgeous, but it was let down by its story. And I feel like I'm starting to wonder whether my pros and cons are maybe not matching up to Assassin's Creed Origins upon
Mm.
a second thought.
Right.
Maybe I should be putting Origins in this place, but I didn't. I've put Odyssey here. I might
Yeah.
I might retroactively change this. If I'll just go
Yeah.
back and play Origins and go, do you know what? Actually, screw it. But I did. One of the things I do love about Odyssey though is that it went further back than Origins, which seemed a bit weird at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there really didn't seem to be much of a justification for it until the DLC, where
Yeah.
it absolutely perfectly linked in
Mm.
the hidden blade, where it came from,
Yeah.
and I loved that. To be fair, it probably should have just been DLC for Origins.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having Cassandra, it should have been. Well, actually, no. It'd have to have been. It'd have to have been another character, or maybe just play as the man with the blade,
Man with the blade. Yeah.
because it was perfect. It was great. I
Yeah.
think as a piece of storytelling. But
Mm.
that's about the only part of the game that has perfect storytelling for me.
Yeah.
So I loved all the gameplay. I loved traversing the map. I spent 140 hours on that because I got invested. There were some beautiful characters in it. There were some great moments. Set pieces were brilliant. The battles were amazing.
Yeah.
But it was only let down by its story for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree there. Yeah, there's a few points I do agree with, and yeah, as I said earlier, there's good sort of things about Odyssey as well. But yeah, I kind of agree with some of the points you brought up there. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So obviously you didn't agree with me on Odyssey. That's further down the list for you. But what's your top three? What's your number three?
So my top three, my number three is Assassin's Creed 2, and it's purely because of the fact that Ezio. I mean, who didn't like Ezio as a character? Do you know what I mean? Ezio sort of was more badass than Altair. He had a style and a flair to him.
Hated him.
He had a he had a sort of boyish charm that I think a lot of people fell in love with.
Yeah.
And the sort of the dynamics in the second one as well, they just took it to the next level. You know what I mean? The fact that you can upgrade the villa, you can upgrade the town. The fact that you can upgrade the shops as well to get better weapons and more decorative weapons. The fact that you can add bits to the hidden blade, make that a bit more decorative. Yeah. It just seemed like the story was good as well. The overall story of it, Italy as a playground was just brilliant. The layout of it, the graphics and everything just took it to the next level. The maps as well were a lot bigger. I felt that the towns and places you went to were a lot bigger. And there's sort of Easter eggs in the second one as well. It's like when you meet his uncle for the first time, and he goes, "It's a me, Mario." It's just like who didn't like that? Who didn't love that they added that kind of Easter egg into the game?
That was cracking.
The fact that they carried on Ezio's storyline as well after that into like Brotherhood and Revelations.
Yeah.
I think Ezio will always be one of the key characters that people will go back to, and one of the key characters a lot of people will talk about, and yeah, for that reason, Assassin's Creed 2 is my number 3, and it's currently the one I'm playing through on my channel.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Now, Emily brings up a cracking point in the chat there. She didn't like the fact that you were literally born in that game, which
Yeah.
bloody traumatizing, to be honest. You literally witness your own
Yeah.
birth. It's
Yeah, I must admit that was a bit sort of interesting to put into the game, but yeah, as soon as you get past that, it's a brilliant experience.
now I absolutely adore Ezio as a character. He's even in game, even in the canon, he is revered as the most important assassin in history.
Mm. Yeah,
Even more so than the man who Bayek, who effectively founded the assassins.
founded it all. Yeah,
More important than Cassandra, who was hyped up to be the biggest thing since sliced bananas in Odyssey.
yeah,
And even more so than Altair, the man that he himself absolutely revered.
yeah.
So I love Ezio, and that's why for my number two, it's Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Right.
Because I love that character, and I love the arc that they took him on. The fact that in number one in Assassin's Creed 2, he was made an assassin. In Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, he was rebuilding them, and he was taking the first steps to becoming the mentor of the Assassin Brotherhood.
Yeah,
So he goes from that sort of brash, unpredictable kid who was fueled by anger and revenge in Assassin's Creed 2 to a more thoughtful and strategic mind in Brotherhood. So he's rebuilding the Brotherhood from the ground up. He's still trying to avenge his family who get killed right at the beginning of it, which was also a massive kick in the dick to anybody who'd played through Assassin's Creed 2 and gone, I love my villa, I love that town that I put so much time into. And they went, so about that, we're going to burn it to the ground? Burn it to the ground? We're going to burn it to the ground. So I was fully invested from that moment on. I was like, I'm going to kill Cesare Borgia, and I'm going to enjoy it. I was fully invested in the characters. It had the first iterations of the multiplayer mode as well, which were absolutely cracking. I loved them. All of the upgrades were back, and some even better than ever. The characters were all just amazing. Again, it was just a continuation of Assassin's Creed 2, but bigger. Even though, technically speaking, the game itself is, in terms of story, shorter, I feel like it was a lot better executed. So, as much as I love Assassin's Creed 2, I feel like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood just took it that tiny step further.
I mean, Brotherhood is one of the ones I haven't played yet, but I will go check out. I am going to check out Brotherhood. I'm going to do a full playthrough on that and see how it goes. So it sounds like a good sort of experience, really.
Well, sorry for absolutely ruining the beginning of the game for you.
That's all right. I don't mind. It's fine.
But yeah, it's honestly, it's absolutely amazing, and you'll see what I mean about the becoming a little bit more analytical. Have you finished Assassin's Creed 2?
I have done a playthrough on it once before, back in the day, back when it first came out.
Yeah.
I've only just started the playthrough on my channel now. I've only just literally unlocked the villa in the town, so I haven't really fully started it yet. But I do sort of know Assassin's Creed 2. I have played through it once before. Brilliant. So yeah, I do know how that sort of ends and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, what you should do, in my personal opinion, is go from Assassin's Creed 2 straight into Brotherhood, because it picks up literally the second it leaves off in number 2.
It leaves off.
So you could, if anything, put Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood as the same game.
Same game. Fair enough.
That's the way I see it. In fact, if I could, I would have put 2 in with it, but I thought I'd stick by my own rules and not be a dick about it.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's fair enough.
So, what is your number 2?
So, my number 2 is one you've already brought up, actually, and that is Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Oh.
And it's my number 2 because I thought that was everything Assassin's Creed should be and more. The fact that you could switch between two characters instantly was brilliant. I will attest, I did prefer Evie over Jacob. Jacob was more of sort of like the tank.
Yeah.
If you wanted to sort of rush in there and beat everyone to shit, then you'd be Jacob. If you wanted to be a little bit more stealthy and a little bit more strategic, you played Evie. But the fact that you could have that choice, the fact that you could, instead of just going full on sneak, you had a choice between, right, am I going to brawl the shit out of this, or am I just going to sneak in there, take out some select few guards, and then take over the place before anyone realizes what's gone on?
Yeah.
I liked that sort of dynamic of being able to choose your play style with it. And as you said earlier about the sort of grappling hook, the fact that you could literally jump onto any rooftop was brilliant. It made getting into eagle points a lot easier as well, and a lot faster. You didn't have to climb up brick after brick after brick. You could just literally aim your hook up to the point, get up to that point, take it, and then eagle jump off, and it was all done and dusted.
Yeah.
The sort of aspect of it as well, the other aspect about Syndicate that I really enjoyed was the fact that you go into this sort of like glitch in the game, and it takes you forward into the future, and you play as Evie's daughter, and you're working for Churchill, you're working in the sort of war, and you're trying to sort of take out the Sage, because the Sage is obviously immortal, and it's your duty. Jacob and Evie passed on the duty to you to take this guy out. And a lot of people, I remember at the time, a lot of people suspected that this was going to be a sequel, that this sort of was a preview to the next game they were going to do after Syndicate. Obviously they didn't do that, but it's the fact that you could literally go from one time period to the other, and it changed the whole sort of dynamic of the game, and it gave you another character that you could you couldn't really explore that much into it, obviously, but there was another character there. So instead of the two characters, you actually had three characters, and they're all interconnected and all linked up, and I just found that to be fantastic. The other aspect of Syndicate, just to finish it off, I enjoyed was the fighting rings. The fact that you could, just jump on like a ship, challenge someone to a fight, and you're in this sort of like this gypsy ring, and you're bare knuckle fighting someone. It was just brilliant. It was fantastic.
I have to admit that is possibly my favourite part of Syndicate. If you watched my stream the other day, I actually did this, but as Evie.
All right.
And I because I'd already played through the game, and apparently once you finished it, you can't start a new one unless you delete your save file, which was a bit weird.
Yeah.
You can basically, I just went through as a fully kitted out Eevee, and bare knuckle boxed a bunch of blokes and beat the living crap out of them. And I loved that.
It's a brilliant experience, isn't it? It's the fact that you can go in there as a and take all these guys out, and it's just overall it's a brilliant experience. And the story to Syndicate I really enjoyed. I thought it was an interesting take. The fact that you had a train as well that you could upgrade and just move around the town on, it was brilliant. And those are the reasons why Syndicate is number 2 for me.
Yeah, but I mean, the only reason it's a little bit further down for me is just the dynamic between Jacob and Evie. I didn't buy into it. It was it felt very caricature to me. It was good. I enjoyed the gameplay. Again, it was a case of story let it down slightly, not to the extent of Assassin's Creed 3 or Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I don't know. I didn't buy Jacob and Evie's sort of arc. I feel like they didn't really go anywhere.
No, that's fair enough.
So that's the only reason it's a little bit further down for me. But I absolutely love the game though. So
no, it's a brilliant experience. It's one of the better ones.
Now, for my number 1, I have chosen a game that I streamed only this past Sunday. It's Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Right.
I absolutely 100% adore this game. I feel like it's the peak of the series thus far. It's introduced, it took everything that the previous games gave to it and said, hey, I like some of this and the other stuff, not so much. So if you guys could just do one I'm going to take this and become a pirate. That cool with you guys?
Yeah.
Great. That's what's happening then.
Yeah.
But it was a swashbuckling adventure on the high seas. You didn't start out as an assassin, which was novel. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, Ezio, technically speaking, wasn't an assassin at the very beginning of the game, but it didn't take long.
Yeah.
Whereas he didn't become... Edward Kenway doesn't become an assassin until around about midway, 50%, maybe 60% of the way through the game, because he is just so interested in what he can get out of everything. And it takes a long time for Edward Kenway to suddenly start going, actually, no, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than my friends, and it's bigger than Nassau. It's about the world, and if I don't do something about it now, then everyone's going to suffer, and my way of life disappears.
Yeah.
And of course, the combat was just like it was in Assassin's Creed 3, which I think is the most fluent combat that we've had in the entire series.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
it's so easy to do. It's so easy to master as well, which it can be a positive and a negative, because you can obviously get yourself to a position where the game has no challenge in combat anymore. But fortunately, combat is really only there in case you balls up the stealth. So I do quite like the fact that the combat is easy enough to bring yourself back out of the problem. If you get yourself, say, into a fortress and you can't sneak through it because you've been spotted by a guard, and every guard in the nearby vicinity and some from abroad have decided to come in and know exactly where you are, you can fight your way out of that. And it's not neck kicks, exactly, Emily. Neck kicks for the win. Again, I like to play things without weapons on occasion, so I did.
No, I can understand that.
I did this. I could manage to take on an entire battalion of people with just me fists, and I absolutely love that, because when you turn around, there's just a bunch of people writhing on the floor in pain, and you just go, "Booyah, bitch!" So
just walk away.
And just that sense of just cool that Edward Kenway just exudes. I'm going to say exudes. It's a much better word. Excretes sounds disgusting. So
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
he is a cool ass character. The story is impeccable. The ship battles are insanely good and very intuitive. And once again, it's a case of taking a concept from the previous game and going, right, now let's ramp it up to 10 and making it just amazing. So for me, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is my favourite in the series, and as far as I'm concerned, and until Valhalla comes out and tries to prove me wrong, it is the pinnacle of the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I was going to say,
yeah.
You might agree with me on this one. Either that, or I forgot to put a graphic in.
That's why I've been a bit quiet so far. Because my number one is Black Flag. I mean, everything you pretty much said I agree with entirely. It's the fact that for me personally, Edward Kenway as a character, it's just perfect. It is just brilliant. The fact that you're playing a pirate that just wants to grab everything he can get his hands on, but then all of a sudden has a change of heart and is like, well, hang on a second, this is actually way bigger than just me getting all the riches, going back to England and proving to my lost girlfriend's father that I am good enough for her. This is actually bigger than that. This is actually bigger than anything else that I can imagine. And, the fact that you literally have got that sort of roguish charm, and he continues that roguish charm all the way through until the end, even when he sort of has a change of heart. And the sort of, as you said, the dynamics of it, the forts, the ship dynamics and everything in it, it is brilliant. It is Black Flag is the Assassin's Creed game every Assassin's Creed game should be.
Which I
You know,
think
they
is why
scoped it
Unity
perfectly
always
right with
seems
that.
so disappointing by comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just the fact that Black Flag set the benchmark for everything, as far as I'm concerned,
So high.
and it's just a shame that Ubisoft didn't really learn from that benchmark going into Unity and all the rest of them. But there is one key thing actually from Black Flag that I would like to bring up just quickly, is the fact that there's a scene towards the end. I think it's one of the cutscenes after you've done all the story, after you've done like the prologue and everything.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Edward Kenway has decided he wants to go back to England and sort of go back to his lost love and settle down and have a family.
Yeah.
And he's on his private island and he's saying goodbye to everyone. He's just about to have a drink out of his tankard, and then he looks off into the distance and he sees all the people that he's met along his journey. All these people are now dead. Just to spoil it a little bit for anyone that hasn't played it yet.
Yeah.
But he basically looks across over the tavern, and all the friends he's met along the way, and all the people he's met along the way, they're all there cheering him on, wishing him well, saying goodbye. And I'm not gonna lie, I choked up when
Yeah.
that scene played.
Oh,
I
man.
got to the point where I was almost in tears, and it's the fact that all these people he met weren't necessarily family, but by the end of his experience and by the end of his journey, they were his family that he
Yeah.
had lost or had sacrificed because of this hollow thing that he was chasing.
Or even
And,
killed himself in some cases.
Exactly, he pretty much killed the person he was to become the person that he became. And the fact that he sacrificed all these people, and that he was still thinking of them even when he was getting out of the rat race, let's say, getting out of the pirate game,
Yeah.
and going back to live his dream. Yeah, it really choked me up. It really did. It really almost brought me to tears, that scene.
It's
And for that reason, a Black Flag will always be number one, and it'll always have a special place in that special place.
yeah.
It'll always be one of the best all-time games anyone can ever play. And
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will ever change their mind.
Oh no. I honestly I do feel a bit sorry for Valhalla trying to top it, because now bringing it up, it's I'm going to be playing it on my channel probably on Sunday again.
Nice.
So I'm really looking forward to getting back onto it, because it's just so good. And just to add to what you were saying there about that scene, Blackbeard is just so, I don't know if it's just this look of pride on Blackbeard's face. That Edward Thatch, as he is known in this game, Edward Teach to some people.
Edward Teach.
Yeah, it's disputed, but most people say Edward Teach. So I'm surprised they went with Edward Thatch, to be honest. Bit of a weird one. They just went, no, we're being different. So if anybody says he's not historically accurate, we can say he was a play on the cat. Yeah, so
he was a play. Yeah.
But Teach looks just so proud of you, because it's like he's looking on at you as you've realised that thing that he's been trying to teach you, that thing that he realised towards the end of his life.
Exactly.
And that you haven't made that same mistake that he did.
He did,
and, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it really touches the heartstrings, doesn't it, really? And the fact that Edward, he pretty much made like a thief and escaped with it. It's he was the one that got away with it. He was the one that ultimately made all the sacrifices, but at the end of the day, he didn't make the ultimate sacrifice.
Yes.
And it's just like I say, it'll always be the sort of heartstrings. It'll always be there for me. And it's just a shame that sort of Edward Kenway's story, even though they didn't really carry it on in the games, it's a shame that his sort of story came to sort of abrupt end when his son decided to go to the Templars and killed him to sort of get some like twisted revenge for not being there, sort of thing. So it was just a shame that he sort of ended that way.
If anybody's interested, it's the Assassin's Creed Black. Is it Black Flag the book at the end of it, or is it the Assassin's Creed 3 book at the beginning?
I can't remember now. I think it's the book that leads on to the third one. I think it's the book that's the prologue to the third one.
Right, because I think
I'd have to double.
I'm not sure, but that's
someone would have to double check that.
Again, the books well worth checking out because they give you some insight into the character's thoughts that you wouldn't otherwise get when you're playing the game. So, and there's some little tiny tweaks as well. There's some creative liberties taken, which still absolutely fantastic. But yeah, just that little bit of the fact that the game ends as well with the reference to something that Haytham Kenway says at the beginning of Assassin's Creed 3 is just beautiful.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
So
the way
nice.
they tie it into the other game is just, it's fantastic.
And yeah, so I'm absolutely on board with you. No pun intended.
Yeah, no, I get what.
Black Flag is just the Assassin's Creed game, and it's going to take a lot of topping.
I agree, 100%.
So, do you know what? I don't think there is any better place to end this than there.
Than in full agreement.
We're just agreeing on so much. So, to close things out, I am absolutely looking forward to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm not just optimistic for it. I am absolutely just shaking in my boots, excited about it, which is impressive because I'm not wearing any boots at the minute. So, we pretty much agree on everything to do with Assassin's Creed, only with some minor differences somewhere.
With minor differences, but we seem to sort of share the same sort of agreements with it.
Thank you so much for joining me on this, the first ever What's the Quack podcast. I'll definitely be back with this. I'll think up another topic. I don't know whether I'm going to do this weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. I'm not sure. I'll figure something out. But you are welcome to come back and discuss whatever we want, whatever I want to talk about.
Cheers for that. I mean, I was going to say, if you ever need like someone to bounce off or a sort of guest host, co-host, I'd be more than up for that.
Well,
for sure.
That's amazing. We might just have a co-host, a permanent co-host then.
Yeah, I'll be up for that. Yeah,
brilliant.
Definitely.
Well,
it's been brilliant tonight.
It's been so much fun. It's really easy talking to you as well. I hope everybody in the chat's been enjoying it as well. And if you stick around, we are going to pop over. We're going to raid a good friend of ours, Art of COD. But until the next time we stream, guys, thank you very much for joining us. And tatty bye.